All right, everybody, welcome back to another episode of Dids in the Dugout. Joined here every single week, just like I am every week with Chad and Hitch. And today we're going to talk a little bit about Ole Miss women's basketball, obviously get into baseball. That's what we do here on this show. But before we get into all that, let me tell you about Rhythm. Rhythm is a sports handicapping app that you can download on the Apple App Store, or what'd you say it was, Hitch? Google something for Android, whatever that is.
Google Play Store. Google Play Store.
Store. There you go. There you go. All you got to do is type in Rhythm, RITHMM, download it, sign up, and you get 14 days free to see how much money you can make. And then you can use those winnings to pay for your subscription and start making money every single week with Rhythm. They do college basketball, obviously, NCAA tournaments coming up, March Madness. That'll be nice to have for that. And then the NBA and their player prop, something they've done. And you can follow them on Twitter, join their Discord. They have people putting out picks all the time, whether it be player props, sides, totals for NBA, college basketball, and coming soon. Haven't seen a definite date on it yet, but they're about to launch their new golf handicapping feature on the app. So if you're a guy that bets on golf, that'll be something that you'd be interested in using. So that's coming out real soon. So go ahead and sign up. Make sure you don't miss it when it does drop. Just like I said, go search for Rhythm, RITHMM, download, sign up, get 14 days free, and see how much you like it. So appreciate them being around for as long as they have, and hopefully for a long time to come. So, all right, guys, Chad, Hitch, how y'all doing today?
Doing good, man.
Good, buddy.
Good. Well, let's go ahead and dive into it. Coach O and the women's basketball team, they're about to start the SEC tournament. They don't play until Friday at 7:30. They end up getting the winner of Vanderbilt in Florida. Coach O's done one hell of a job this year with this Ole Miss team, 12-4 in conference play. Like I said, number 3 overall seed, the double bye in the SEC tournament. And this year it came with a couple players that got some all SEC accolades, Hitch.
Yeah, Madison Scott and Marquisha Davis, both first team all SEC. And then Madison Scott also jumped on that all defensive team too. But also just on Coach Yo, this is her 3rd straight year with 20 wins. And she became just the 2nd coach in Ole Miss women's head coach to get her 100th win here at the school. So she's really had a heck of a run here. And I was looking at this graphic here on Twitter. It said we're in our Yo era. Glad to be in that.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. It's been a lot of fun. And, this is going to be the 2nd straight year we end up going to the tournament, right? Go to the Sweet 16 last year for that huge upset against Stanford on their home court. And, Chad, Coach O's already got some really good news going into next year. Madison Scott's already announced that she's coming back for next year.
Yeah, she's one of those players that still has a COVID year, so she's going to take that. And anytime you can bring back your 2nd leading scorer, leading rebounder, leading assist, that's pretty powerful. And you'd imagine, she's been at Ole Miss for over 4 years at this point. The leadership angle, I imagine that's just got Coach O extremely excited for next year, even though this year is still going on. And there's a lot of good things that can still happen there.
Yeah. And like I said, Yo loves defense, right? We've said that plenty. And with Madison Scott coming in on that all defensive team in the SEC. And as we talked about, we know that Yo doesn't slap the floor playing defense, but she does love you get your hands up. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, I haven't seen confirmation on that yet.
She said it, yeah, but you weren't here, Chad. That's okay.
Oh, okay. That's fair.
Oh, okay.
But for real, congratulations to the women's team. That double bye is big. What'd you say, Chad? They're on the same side with LSU.
So if they win Friday against either Vanderbilt or Florida, they would play, presumably LSU, assuming they advance as well.
And and I was at the game here in Oxford when LSU came to town. Me and Sawyer went to the pavilion and watched it, and I think it ended up being fairly in hand by LSU at the end, maybe 8 or 10 points. I can't remember the score, but the entire game was back and forth. And Angel Reese, SEC Player of the Year, she's that good. But I think that Coach Yo, we take care of business tomorrow, I think got a shot of upsetting LSU.
You've got a 7-game win streak. It'll be 8 if they win on Friday going into that LSU game. They're playing well. And this time of the year, that's what matters.
Yeah. And obviously it's not going to matter now. I think it's already been announced that Dawn Staley's the SEC Coach of the Year. But Coach O deserved every bit of recognition, credit, as Dawn Staley did. Because if I'm not mistaken, Coach O ended up losing her starting point guard at the beginning of the year. We've been fighting through that all year long. And then she still ends up going 12-4, third in the SEC. Just a hell of a job by her. Just kept plugging away, and it's all based on defense, right? So really excited to see what they're going to do in the SEC tournament. Obviously, the NCAA tournament when it gets here. So I know they're going to have a lot of support from Rebel Nation. People have been tuning in for her games and really supporting this women's basketball team. So that's pretty cool to see. So ready to get that started and see how far this team ends up going and just give another building block for Coach O in this program as she's been building ever since she's got here and has really done an incredible job. So just super happy for her and this team. So that's going to be a lot of fun to see. But we're going to shift gears a little bit. Ole Miss played Memphis on Wednesday night. It was supposed to be a Tuesday night game, ended up getting pushed by the threat of rain. I don't know if it ever rained in Oxford or not. It never rained here. Yeah, see, I'm about 35, 40 minutes away and never got it here, but whatever.
Did it rain for you, Chad?
No, it's actually been pretty sunny and nice. 7 degrees. It's been nice here. So yeah, we've been
okay. Well, I mean, that's pretty much. I mean, I think we had 75 degrees here, no rain today, so it's been pretty nice here as well. So you don't have that on us anymore. Getting into the good part of the year, Chad. But yeah, ended up playing Memphis. No, that's what I really look forward to. I need all the heat. But ended up playing Memphis last night, and the Rebels really put on a show. I thought had Riley Maddox starting for us and had a little bit of a rough first inning, but really, really settled in after that. Gave up 2 runs in the first, but he looked really sharp after that and ended up going 5 innings. 6 strikeouts. I think only 2 walks, if I had that right. One walk. So 5 innings, 6 hits, 1 walk, 6 strikeouts, and just those 2 earned runs in the first inning. You know, I think this is a really, really big start for Riley Maddox. Struggled a little bit, wasn't getting a whole lot of length out of him, which is understandable. Come back from Tommy John surgery. He's been a bullpen guy ever since he stepped on campus. We're just now starting to stretch him out starting this past fall. So this is a big jump forward if you've got a guy that can handle midweeks the way Riley Maddox did against a good Memphis offense that ranked number 1 in like 8 or 9 offensive categories in the American Conference so far this year.
You know, and it feels like you get a boost in the arm because if something happens to the guys that are currently starting on the weekend, you at least have another option. You're not scrambling to, we're going to have to do a bullpen game or whatever that is, because I still feel like, the rotation is still is not cemented, with conference play coming up next weekend with South Carolina. That's a big deal considering, we don't know what's going to happen this weekend against a pretty good offensively Morehead State team. This could be a big step for Riley Maddox to potentially get into that weekend rotation once conference play gets here.
Yeah, man, he looked comfortable up there last night, sitting 90, 91 with some arm side run and some sink on his fastball, man. His fastball was – I don't know to somebody who doesn't know baseball or who doesn't pick up on the little nuances. I don't know if they would enjoy watching Riley Maddox as much as I did last night when I got it. But man, every fastball, and I don't know if this is the case because I was up doing things too, but it seemed like every time I was looking at him, he was facing a left-handed batter. I don't know how many left-handed batters they had in their lineup. But it seemed like every time I looked, he was facing one, and every time it was that. Just the run where it would run just off the plate, and then he would come in with that changeup, and he just did what Riley Maddox does, and he looked like Riley Maddox from 2 years ago when he was a freshman, and everybody was so high on him, and So it's a good start for him, like you said, is get some length to show that he can go a little bit longer. The 6 strikeouts is always great to see. But what I like seeing, guys, with Riley Maddox, that sink on that fastball, 6 ground outs, right?
6
Only 2
ground outs. That's it. Yeah.
And he's got guys swinging over the top, beating that thing into the ground, and our guys are, making the plays behind him. And that's good to see.
Yeah. I'm glad you brought that up. That's where I was going next with he ended up getting 15 outs total, and 12 of them were either strikeout or ground out. Really big for a guy like Riley Maddox that relies so heavily on that sinker. So he really had it working after he got comfortable after that first inning. And again, another big stat. Only the 1 walk, right? You go the 5 innings, only 1 walk. So a really, really good job by Riley. And I think, outside of Riley Maddox, the performance of the night has to go to Braden Jones. He comes in and throws multiple pitches, 96 miles an hour. That's a guy we're used to seeing sit, between 92 and 94. And if he's able to start running it up into the upper 90s the way he did against Memphis on Wednesday night, that's quite a weapon that's emerging out of that Ole Miss bullpen there with Braden. And he's pitched really well up until this point, but last night I felt like he kind of took it to another level with the way he was throwing.
Yeah, and I swear at one point last night I was watching the game, I swear I saw him throw it 96 and then look in the dugout and smirk. Like, I don't know. Maybe I'm reading into it. Man, I swear I saw him like smirk, like, yeah.
But I've got it.
Yeah, but he threw again. Command was important for him last night too, because he threw a pitch last night to end the inning. He couldn't have run the ball up there and put it in Campbell Smithwick's glove any better. It was it was a 3-2 full count pitch. And man, he dotted it right there on the corner. He looked great.
Yeah. Yeah, it's cool seeing a freshman, last year he was a freshman, get you a year in college ball, come back and you wonder if that offseason training or whatever that could be really helped get him that velocity. So it's cool seeing that, a guy that we saw last year and how vastly different a guy can look with just a few extra miles per hour on that fastball. He becomes a weapon in the bullpen, like you were mentioning, Dids. That's a big deal.
Yeah, these kids get here at 17, 18 years old, right? And that 4 years from 18 to 22 is important in the developmental age for what men, I guess.
Yes.
And so you're putting on weight, right? I keep hearing people say put on weight, but what they mean by that is they're eating better. They're paying attention to what they eat, and they're on a weight program where they are putting on healthy weight and muscle. The difference between an 18-year-old kid that shows up on campus day one and a kid that gets drafted either after their junior year or they're 22 and they've graduated, body type is vastly different because of these programs that they're on.
Yeah, and I'm going to stick to pitching here. I know we talk a lot about it on the show, but I think it's easily the most important part of this team, trying to find enough arms in this bullpen, because right now we're kind of in a situation where we're not getting a lot of length out of starters, right? You're getting we got 5 innings out of Grayson Saunier last weekend and Gunnar Dennis last weekend. So it's nice to get into that 5th inning. You would like, especially on Friday night, to stretch it out a little bit more. But if that's going to be...
But they were both... Sorry, Diaz, I didn't mean you're
No, you're good.
Too far. They were both very difficult 5 innings, right?
Yes.
None of the innings, except maybe Saunier had maybe a couple innings that were easy. Every other one of those 10 innings combined were difficult, where they ran a lot of pitches up. And so even if they go 5 innings and they have run into trouble, there's probably been guys in the bullpen up throwing for 2 innings, right?
Yeah.
And stopping and starting throwing. And sometimes a guy gets warm, never even goes in the game, but that doesn't mean he can come back in the 8th inning and pitch, because he's already got the cool down. So
And cooled down, yeah, and that's and I don't think it's something we talked about on our weekend recap show, Hitch. But they got 5 innings in 2 completely different ways. Gunnar Dennis settled in pretty early, it looked like. Then he ran into trouble, just a little bit there in the 4th, and then they end up getting to him there in the 5th. Grayson was the complete opposite. Ran into trouble in the 1st, got out of it, and then they finally got to him there in the 2nd inning. But we get the big double play ball out of Andrew Fisher there in the 3rd, and from there on he just cruised all the way through 5 innings at that point. But if you're starting rotation, it's kind of like what we did talk about on the recap show that I brought up. If your rotation's not going to give you any depth, you're going to end up burning out a bullpen a lot quicker in the year, especially when you get into SEC play.
We saw it last year.
But one thing that I'm starting to come around to now is, we may just be a team that has 11 or 12 dudes out of the bullpen that can come in and just pitch, right? I mean, look at Braden Jones. He's a guy that's almost strictly outside of the Hawaii series. I think it's the only time he's pitched on the weekend. He's really taken over the midweek relief role for us and has obviously been really, really good. I think you'll see that shift a little more to the weekend as the season goes on if he keeps pitching the way he is. But look, now we've got a guy in Austin Simmons who was out there practicing spring football just earlier on Wednesday, comes in and pitches an inning on Wednesday night when the baseball game's going on. And look, man, he's looked really, really good. He went 1 inning, 2 strikeouts, 2 walks, 1 run, none of them earned because, quite frankly, the run that scored was not his fault outside of him being on base to begin with. Had 2 passed balls there, one to advance him to 3rd and the other one to get him on home there. But Austin Simmons, the way the ball comes out of his hand, this guy's just different, right? From an overall athlete standpoint, not even talking about just baseball. Usually you get a guy that plays both sports and it's primarily football and he tinkers around with baseball. Well, this guy hasn't been playing a lot of baseball like all these other guys have, and he's still getting all of these innings. And I think he's going to be a major player out of this bullpen, even when SEC play rolls around.
Yeah, 100% right.
Yeah, so it's really impressive what he's doing. It'll be a lot more interesting as the spring ball goes along to see how much he is out there with baseball. But I think they're going to end up working that out, and I think Austin's going to end up having a real good year here. And guys like Braden and Austin, they also give you the flexibility, which we'll get into here in a minute with the starting rotation changes with Liam Doyle going in on Saturday, JT Quinn coming out for at least this weekend. But if you can find extra guys in the bullpen, it gives you the flexibility to use Josh Mallett as a starter if you've got guys that can fill his role coming out of the pen. So I think that's something to keep an eye on as the season goes along. But Liam Doyle can shut all that down by just coming out and shoving on Saturday and not letting go of that rotation spot. Not giving up on JT Quinn either. I think he's a guy that has an enormous amount of potential, has really good stuff. I think those blisters are bothering him more than people are letting on. I think Mike said that one of them had healed up on Saturday, but the other one was still bothering him. I'll be interested to see if this if this weekend they pitch him out of the bullpen any, or if they're just giving him a full week off to see if that thing will heal up properly instead of re-aggravating it. So that's something I'm watching this weekend. And look, our guy Connor Spencer struggled on Friday night against Iowa, comes in against Memphis and just shoves the door, right? He came in throwing a bunch of strikes, ends up picking up the save, only giving up 1 hit, struck out 3, though. Velocity was really good. I think he was sitting 95, 96, and he just came right at those guys. So really good to see Connor come in and close this thing out and get back on track after one bad outing. He's pitched, I think, 4 times this year, and that one against Iowa was the only bad outing so far. So just overall, before we move to the hitting side of this Memphis game, overall thoughts on the pitching staff. I think they were incredible and, quite frankly, absolutely dominant on Wednesday night for the Rebels.
Yeah, I mean, it definitely speaks to the depth that, we were wondering if we were going to have, talking about previews coming into the season. And early returns look encouraging, right? There's still a long way to go, a lot of good teams to face, but, things could have definitely started a lot worse, I guess is the way I could say it.
Yeah, and with Connor Spencer, I mean, he did the one thing last night that I was looking for him to do. Even if he had gone in there and gotten, hit and beaten up and given up runs and lost the game, right? To me, the important thing is he went in there and filled it up and just went right after the guys, right? Like you didn't see any ill effects of that Friday night game in his next appearance. And so luckily he didn't get hit, right? And they didn't put up a bunch of runs, but I was glad to see him come out and just fill that thing up, strike out the side, and, pack it up and get that save.
Get out of there.
Right. And so, that gives him the confidence going in, and Mike, to be honest, him confidence going into this weekend and into SEC play that, hey, guys are going to have rough outings here and there.
Yeah.
Connor Spencer can come back from one and be fine in the next one.
Yeah. And that's another guy I think is really important with regards of Josh Mallett's too. You've got to have a guy you can have faith in at the back end of that bullpen. So, say Josh Mallett's does stay in the bullpen, but you've got bases loaded, 1 out in the 6th inning, and you're up 2, down 2, whatever it is. Then you can bring Josh Mallett's in at that point and try to get you out of that jam, knowing you've got a guy that can still close it on the back end if you're able to hold on to the lead or come back, whatever the case may be. I just think it's really big for the flexibility of Josh Mallett's. That way he's not locked in to one certain spot and one certain role in this bullpen.
Yeah, I think it's very telling how much confidence that Bianco has in him and what Bianco thinks he could do. I think it speaks volumes the way that Bianco uses Mallett's and Nichols, right? Because I would think, stupid me would think one of those guys would be in closing the games. But the way he uses Mallett's and Nichols, he knows he's got a guy in Connor Spencer, that can come in and do the job there at the end.
But that also speaks to like how the game of baseball has changed a good bit with closers, right? Because in the past, you think whoever's up, it doesn't matter. The closer's pitching in the 9th inning, but the argument, people bag on analytics and sabermetrics and all that type of stuff. But the idea is later in the game, the best player may be hitting in the biggest situation in the 7th inning. Why wouldn't you want to bring your best pitcher in to eliminate the threat right there, as opposed to, well, I gotta bridge this to the 9th, and you're pitching against the bottom of the order. And okay, yeah, that's fine that he got all the outs, but the game was really won or lost in that 7th inning or whenever it may be.
If these runners score, right, this 1-run lead that I have may not be there in the 9th,
right?
When 100%,
Yeah, it's definitely a lot different than it used to be back when we were growing up watching baseball for sure. So that's just kind of our quick breakdown of the pitching staff as of Wednesday night against Memphis, though. Now, look, the offense did the same thing it's done all year long, right? Ended up walking 9 times, albeit leaving 12 guys on base. Now, that's something interesting I wanted to bring up to y'all, because I kind of got interested in that because the stat came out earlier this week about Ole Miss leading the country in walks leading into these midweek games and all that, and like either first or second in sacrifice flies. It's really good to walk and be patient and be selective, but it also leads to those high left on base numbers as well, because of how many guys are constantly getting on base. At some point, you've got to not be as selective if it's a strike and you've got runners on, especially with the bases loaded like we saw Friday against Iowa. Go up there and hunt for something in the zone and try to find a gap somewhere to score multiple runs instead of one run by either walk or sac fly, right? It's kind of a double-edged sword, I feel like.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, because you don't want to take away someone's plate discipline and have them going up there and hacking at pitches out of the strike zone. I mean, we saw what happened Friday night with Iowa when we loaded the bases, and our best hitter went up there at first 2 pitches, not close, and he swung at him, right? Nope. Getting an 0-2 hole, and we didn't even score. And so it's important to keep that plate discipline. But at the same time, there are these things called hitters counts, right? They have pitchers counts, hitters counts, 2-0, 3-1, all of these counts. And what I'm seeing is a lot of guys standing there, taking 2 pitches, right? Like if it goes 3-0, I take 3-1 and I take 3-2. Take 3-1, that's fine. But if you are expecting a pitch and you get that pitch on 3-2, I mean, don't take 2 straight strikes. But again, like you said, it is a fine line because you don't want guys expanding their strike zone and going up there hacking, losing plate discipline. Then we don't have any runners on, and we're relying on solo home runs, to win games. So I think what they're doing with the plate discipline and taking walks, I think they're doing a great job with that. I would just like to see some more 3-1 hacks.
Yeah, and that's kind of something we got into a little bit against Memphis. Like I said, 9 walks now, but then we come back and we hit 3 home runs? Do I have that right? Groff, Leger, and
Burford.
Yeah, and Leger's was an absolute bomb. It went like 2 or 3 rows up behind the bullpen in left field there, where we normally set hitch. Just a really, really long home run there for him. I did want to touch on Andrew Fisher. He was back in the lineup, playing third, batting second, after getting hit in the head, ear, whatever it was, having a punctured eardrum from that hit by pitch Sunday against Iowa. Just really good to see him back in there. You never know with something like that, the lingering effects, whether concussion symptoms are going to come up or whatever it is. Maybe an equilibrium issue when it comes to puncturing eardrums and stuff like that. So it was just good. He didn't have a particularly good night. 0 for 5, 2 strikeouts. But I think by this point we all know what kind of hitter Andrew Fisher is, and I'm not sure he saw anything besides a changeup all night. I know at one point he saw 6 straight. It was kind of ridiculous the way they were pitching.
Even more than the lingering effects, right? Like there has to be a level of fear stepping back into the batter's box. And I'm not saying that obviously he's scared or what, but there is a level of being tentative about getting back into the box and seeing another pitch. And what I saw last night was him in the box not flinching. It didn't look like he was scared for a ball to be on the inside, and him still, man, he has exceptional control of his bat.
He does
through the zone, and he was showcasing it last night. Even though he didn't get a hit, I could tell that he was seeing the ball well, and so there's no fear of him getting back into the box, and that was a good sign too.
Yeah. So kind of like you talked about getting back into the box and facing that live pitching for the first time after something like that. It's almost like a running back with the torn ACL that gets back and makes that first cut on a football field, right? Like he knows he can do it. Yeah. He's not scared to do it, but you're always waiting for him to do it the first time. That way everything kind of calms down and then you're back to business as usual at that point. So, but yeah, good to see him back in there. Jackson Ross, 2 for 3. With that big double there off the wall that drove one in. We already mentioned the home runs by Groff and Leger and Burford. I thought Trayson Hughes had another pretty good day. He made a couple good catches. He hit one that I thought had a chance. Yeah, I mean, as soon as it got to the outfield, it just completely died on him. But I thought he crushed it. Luke Hill, me and you talked about this just a little bit Wednesday night hitch, that he had this little dribbler that he ends up beating out for an infield single, and Kessinger on the call mentioned that that's sometimes something like that gets you going, and me and you both had those same thoughts. Be really good to see Luke really turn it on right here.
Yeah, man, because it's got to be so frustrating to hit the ball on the nose like he does, like he has been in the past few games, and then to get a dribbler down the first baseline,
and that's what gets you on base.
But all you can do is just keep going there, having good at bats.
Yeah, that's really all you can do there. So, but yeah, overall, good day for Ole Miss. Ended up pulling out the win. 5-3 against the Memphis Tigers. Again, a good Memphis team, particularly on the offensive side. So that was a good win for us. And now we shift gears. Ole Miss has really strung some wins together here kind of getting on a little bit of a roll. We're 9-5 now, won 4 straight, if I have that right. And, or no, 3 straight. We're going for 4 straight this weekend. And we welcome Morehead State into town. They're coming into Oxford. This is a team that can really hit the ball. They've got guys up and down the lineup. One guy that really sticks out to me is catcher Ryan Grabush. He is hitting .448 with 1148 OPS. He's started in 9 of the 11 games so far, so it's not like it's a small sample size for him. Doesn't have any home runs, if I'm not mistaken, but they've got guys that can really hit the ball. What do y'all see out of this lineup, and is there anybody in particular that sticks out to y'all?
Yeah, I mean, you look at Riley Priest. He's their center fielder. He's the last year he was the Ohio Valley Conference Player of the Year. He's already got 8 home runs this year, 17 RBI. Yeah. He's slugging .920. Lefty, if I'm not mistaken. He's stolen 7 bases on 8 attempts. So this guy looks like he can do all of it. So you're going to have to be very cognizant of where he is, what situations he's coming up in, because it looks like he can really hurt you if you're not paying attention.
And he hurts you in multiple ways. Yeah, that's the thing. He's the ultimate power speed guy in their lineup. 1378 OPS on top of it. He's just hitting everything.
Yeah, he's also 1 home run shy of the Morehead State record.
Oh, okay. Oh, wow. Did not know 49, that. Well, that's
49 is the record, and
they're hitting 305 as a team so far this year, which I think Ole Miss has gotten theirs up to like 260-ish. So that's a pretty big difference, 40 points, and it's not like Morehead State's played nothing but scrubs. They've played some decent teams already this year, so it's going to be it's going to be a game. This is going to be a weekend where the left on base could really come back to bite because it doesn't appear that Morehead State's going to be just shut out all weekend.
Yeah, and looking up and down at their stats, the thing that jumps out to me is their on base. Like they run, and that worries me so much. I mean, and just as a baseball fan in general, right? Runners on base that will steal or that mess with the pitcher or whatever, they give me anxiety regardless of the team that I'm cheering for. It just makes it even worse when it's a team that I know maybe struggles a little bit with runners on base, holding them on and throwing them out, blocking balls that are in the dirt, things like that. But
or ones that aren't in the dirt.
But hey, here's the thing, This is the weekend to prove that we have those skills, that we can do those things, because this team is going to challenge that of us, right? They're going to run. We're going to need to be able to throw guys out. We're going to be able to keep the ball in front of us. We're going to need to be able to keep guys close with pickoff moves. We don't necessarily have to pick everybody off, but we have to keep them. We have to give Smith Campbell an opportunity to throw them out, right? We can't. The pitchers can't have runners still on them.
Yeah. This is kind of like I said, a perfect team leading into SEC play, because it's a team that's going to try to expose all of Ole Miss's flaws as a team themselves. Really controlling the running game's been a problem. We've walked way too many guys. Well, if you walk some of these guys, then a walk could turn into a triple before you know it.
Yeah.
So that's one thing I'm looking for. One other guy I want to point out, their shortstop, Colton Becker, has had a really solid year so far this year, started all 11 games. He's hitting .413 with a 1222 OPS, 3 home runs, 9 stolen bases. Again, a guy that makes a ton of contact, makes a lot of loud contact. And then when it doesn't go over the fence, he's using his legs to turn singles into doubles, doubles into triples, etc. And they have several guys. It's not only about getting from first to second on steals, but when you have guys that are as fast as these guys are, then a ball in the gap is an RBI when you're standing on first base at that point, right? You don't necessarily have to be in scoring position. And so that's going to be a real challenge for our pitching staff and our catchers. I think that's one thing that we need to get a lot better at, is pitchers and catchers working together to control the running game. You talk a lot about catchers not struggling to throw out runners, but at the same time, our pitchers have to do a better job of keeping those guys close and getting the ball to the plate, right? You can't take too long in your stretch to get the ball to the plate. I feel like that's been a little bit of a problem so far this year as well.
Everybody in that opposing dugout has got a stopwatch, and they are timing your delivery to the plate, and they are letting the runner at first base know how quick you are to the plate.
Yeah, and if you're not quick enough, then they're taking off. So, but on top of as good of an offense as Morehead State has been so far this year, one thing that really worries me is Friday night. They've got a dude on Friday night, guys. Luke Hilton's a grad transfer righty. He's 3-0 on the year, 2.95 ERA, and it's a polar opposite situation as last Friday. This is a guy with really good stuff that doesn't walk people. So, our mindset all last weekend was be patient, wait for your pitch. This Friday, we better go up there and be aggressive and ready to hit. He's got 19 strikeouts and 3 walks and 18 in the third inning so far this year. This is a guy that comes right at you and attacks, and our guys need to be ready to go up there and really be aggressive and swing the bats come Friday night.
Yeah, looking at his stuff, I'm sorry, Chad. You said that about walks, Dids. He doesn't walk many people. The one thing that sticks out to me is he has hit a few guys, so that tells me he's going to pitch inside, right? He controls it well because he doesn't walk people. Maybe a couple get away from him. He's going to pitch inside, and so that's something we've got to be cognizant of. Sorry, Chad.
No, I was just going to say, not as much about the Friday night starter, but it does look like we have a similar situation as this last weekend, where if you get into the bullpen, you can really hurt them because they have a team ERA of 8.39. They're Saturday and presumably they're Saturday and Sunday starters. You got a 4.91 and a 6.59 ERA. So we talk about the offense being able to, really open up and knock those guys in their own base. If you can't do it this weekend, I'm really worried about the remainder of the season because this looks like a time where the Ole Miss offense can really break out beyond the walks. And really just people hitting the ball hard and knocking in guys, from wherever they are on the base paths.
Yeah. It's one thing I talked about. I recorded with Stephen Willis on Wednesday. It's one thing I talked about that, obviously the polar opposites of Fridays from week to week. You got to be aggressive on Friday. But as soon as you get Luke Hilton out of the game and basically the rest of the weekend after that, you can go back to your same approach because Grant Heron on Saturdays, he's got walked 10 and 14 and 2/3. He's the 4.91 ERA you mentioned. And then Sunday is a freshman right-hander, Callum McGill, 1-0, but a 6.59 ERA, 16-6 strikeout to walk in 13 2/3, but he's also hit 4 guys as well, if I have that right. So, and then you get into that bullpen, and that's where things really tend to crumble for Morehead State. Again, really good offensively with their lineup and really good at the top of their rotation with Luke Hilton. But after Luke Hilton, you should really run things after that. It reminds me of hosting a regional, right? You always worry about the 4 seed having one guy. Right, the one ace that's going to come in and just shove and shut you down for one game of the weekend. Then after that, they usually fizzle out. That's kind of the vibe I get from this Morehead State team coming into Oxford this weekend.
Yeah, it definitely looks that way, especially when you start looking at all the crooked numbers in this bullpen ERA wise. It's not going to say that they're a one-person team on this pitching staff, but you really should be able to expose. If you're a team that's going to be competitive in the SEC, this is not a team that should put up too much of a fight, especially if you can get past this Friday night starter. I would be really disappointed if we don't sweep. Worst case scenario, took 2 out of 3.
Yeah, that's what I said as well as the question posed to me is anything less than a sweep acceptable? And I'm like, well, I mean, yeah, I want a sweep, but I mean, if you tell me we win 2 out of 3, I totally buy it because of Luke Hilton on Friday night and how good the offense can be. If those things line up perfectly on any given day, then I mean this is baseball. Things like that happen with talented players. Right now, if it was some scrub out there on Friday and we got shut down, yeah, I'd be pissed then. But 2 out of 3, I think, is the goal, or a sweep is the goal. But I think 2 out of 3 is still acceptable. I think is where I land on this one.
Assuming, of course, depending on how the game goes, of course, right? How you lose that game is always important. But yes, I completely agree with you. Go ahead.
I don't think people understand how difficult it is to beat a team 3 games in a row, right? Like a sweep it's very hard. Even if you are, head and shoulders better than the other team, it's very difficult to beat the same group of guys 3 games in a row.
Especially in baseball, right? Because
especially
like you mentioned, you can have one guy that is just lights out and is just throwing strikes, his breaking ball's moving better than it's ever moved before, and you just can't touch it, right? So that is a really, really good point. Yeah,
but at the same time, there's also an argument to be made that Ole Miss has put themselves in this situation this early in the year. That Arkansas State game where they throw 8 or 9 guys, just a complete bullpen game, you can't lose that game at home. But we ended up dropping that one. That at the very least, you needed to take 3 at Hawaii. I know that's a difficult travel situation and all that. You drop a Friday night game to High Point, whatever. I'm never going to hold Friday night against us because weird things can happen if they have a guy that can go, which High Point did. But it's the same situation here with Moore State. But the point being, you look up, we've already lost 5 non-conference games. You can't keep stacking these non-conference losses if you have any sort of aspirations of not only making the tournament, but hosting as well. So, so this is about the time where the rubber needs to meet the road, and Ole Miss needs to, we need to maybe get a sweep here and really go on a run against midweek teams to keep that non-conference record where it needs to be to keep us in position to not only make the tournament, but I still think we're a good enough team to host. I haven't backed off that. I'm not going to back off of it now. Obviously, we're going to learn a lot about this Ole Miss team after this Morehead series and going into South Carolina next weekend to start SEC play.
Yeah, you've got South Carolina, then you've got Tennessee. That is a pretty tough start to the schedule. And you want to see us rounding into form at the right time. And this is going to be a chance to at least give us a little bit more positivity, right? Like you mentioned, there's a lot that can happen. It's a long season, but you want to be confident going into that opening series. And, a sweep, a commanding sweep would really go a long way to, okay, it was just a blip this early start of the season, and we've kind of got our bearings at this point.
Yeah, and we'll talk about it a little bit more as the weeks come up with the schedule. But the start of SEC play is going to be really important because you have South Carolina at home, and then, like you mentioned, Chad, you go on the road to Knoxville. Really interesting game sandwiched between those 2 series. We go to Pearl to play Southern Miss, and as we all know, Ole Miss and Mississippi State, that's our World Series when we get to play the mighty Golden Eagles of Southern Miss. So I hope we can keep our heads on straight and not get too caught up in such a big moment, because Lord knows these programs have never played in anything such as big as playing Southern Miss down in Pearl. So, but we'll get to talk about that here in the next week or so, and hopefully these guys can keep the main thing, right? I think that's the biggest thing here. So, all right. Well, do y'all have any more final thoughts leading into this weekend before we get out here?
Yeah, just quickly talking about Southern Miss there. I realized that I hadn't talked about the change in the starting rotation a lot. Right, so we got Liam Doyle that's going to come in and Saturday, right? And so I've been singing his praises the whole year because when he came in from the transfer portal, I went and I looked at his stuff, and man, he's going to shove it. I think he deserves a spot, on the weekend when one came open. But he blanks. who were we just talking about? Southern Miss twice last year.
Mm-hmm.
He pitched like 7 innings against Southern Miss, blanked them. And in the regional on Friday night, like he just went in and who was Mercer maybe that he went in and beat. So he's going to be
news.
Yeah. He's going to be impressive on Saturday, I think, because following what he did against Iowa when he came in and threw those 2 or that 1 inning,
he looked really good.
Just shoved it.
Really
it was almost like he was sticking his hand out, asking for the ball, being like, "Let me try on the weekend." I'm excited to watch him pitch. I'm excited to watch him pitch out of the bullpen. I think it could be a DeLucia kind of thing, right, where a guy from the bullpen doesn't quite feel comfortable because he started his whole life. You put him in a starter. You put him in a starter role, and he just shines. I'm hoping that's what we get from Liam Doyle.
Yeah, 7 strikeouts and 12 batters faced. Opponents hitting 091. That'll usually play for you.
And look, I'll say this, and maybe I could be wrong, and I am not saying he is Doug Nikhazy. Don't get me wrong, but he reminds me so much of Nikhazy because as I was watching him the other day, he doesn't throw 90, 91. But he's throwing it at the letters, right? And everybody is late on his fast. There is something. He throws a heavy ball, and it gets on you deceivingly quick, like Nikhazy, right? Nikhazy from the left-hand side, he didn't throw it relatively hard, but all the time you saw guys late on his fastball. And I think Liam Doyle has that same quality where he throws a heavy ball, and it gets on guys a lot quicker than they expect.
Yeah, that's kind of like I kind of made that observation on Sunday with Iowa starter. You know, I asked if Saulnier's velocity was down because they were throwing the same velocity, but it looked like Iowa's starter, he was getting the ball up there. He was running up there faster. At least that's how it looked because there were guys late on it. It's that lefty, maybe it's that lefty kind of slinging at action that, you know, maybe that's what it is. But it's interesting that you bring that up because I noticed that in the Iowa game on Sunday.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's something I'll definitely be looking forward come Saturday, and something I'll be paying more attention to since you brought it up. I haven't really thought about till you start talking about it just then. Is where is he releasing the ball at? What kind of stride does he have? What is he actually throwing from the pitcher's mound to the plate? Right, some of these guys have really long strides, you know, and they're throwing 3 feet closer than anybody else throwing off the rubber because of how long of a stride they are and where the ball's actually released, right? So that may be something that could be playing into it as well. So, yeah, I think Liam Doyle's a huge story this weekend. Like I said earlier, I'm going to be watching for JT Quinn, whether he pitches or not, or if this is a full week off. And one guy I want to see more of this weekend is Kyler Carmack. He came in against Iowa on Sunday and absolutely filled it up. I don't even think he threw a ball the entire game he was in. Only pitched the 1 inning, but he came right out, guys. Really good fastball and best changeup on the team. He's a guy that could just be another one of the guys that we talked about earlier in this show that could really be a weapon out of the bullpen if he's able to continue the stuff that he's shown in limited action, albeit so far this year.
Yep.
So those are a few things I'm looking for. Mason Nichols, got to get him into a game this weekend. He hadn't pitched since the midweek game last week before the Iowa series. So need to get him in. Yeah, Missouri State. There you go. So need to get him in, get him a little bit of work. But look, that's kind of the thing that we talked about earlier that we're running into. We've got all of these guys that can pitch that you want to see. There's only so many innings, especially when you run into like run rules and stuff like that, and you're losing 2 innings a game. So, but it's a good problem to have. I know Mike's going to be able to figure this thing out. But those are the things I'm looking for this weekend. All these bullpen guys, I want to see them get out there, pitch, and keep building on the stuff they're doing. So that's going to be a lot of fun to watch. But can't wait to get it started, though. That's the Friday, Saturday, Sunday series for the Ole Miss Rebels. And we'll go ahead and wrap it up there. Me and Hitch will absolutely be back with y'all Sunday evening with a weekend recap show. One of these days, we're going to talk Chad into joining us, but that hadn't happened yet. So y'all stay tuned. I'm not even going to tell you when it's going to happen. He's just going to be there when y'all tune in. So keep tuning in.
I'm not even going to tell Chad.
And nobody will care.
Probably ain't going I don't know, man. I think Rodney will. He would love to see you on there.
No.
So you need to come join us, man. So, all right, guys. Well, look, I appreciate y'all joining me again this week. Hitch, at the very least, I'll talk to you Sunday. Chad, hope to talk to you Sunday, but definitely next week. And let's let the Rebels get hot and keep winning some baseball games.
Sounds good, guys. Have a good one.
See you.
All right. Hi, Toddy.